thereof, full professor David Lankes from Syracuse University, coming to us via the power of the internet. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Yay!
Good morning. Good morning. I have to say I'm terribly jealous. I would much rather be where you are, particularly considering the great skiing weather that's going on, and that's in Springfield. Good Lord, what's up with that? I have about 20 minutes, I believe. Is that right, Andy?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. So why am I jealous? Well, one, because I'm in Syracuse, but it took lymphoma to keep me from getting on the plane and going, because this is my favorite project ever. And you guys are about to experience something really cool and really special if you take advantage of it. So I'm sorry to start by giving advice, but let me give some advice here. Leave the office behind for a while. Take advantage of the ability to not check your email every 10 minutes. Turn the beeper off on your phone for a moment. And the one thing which is going to be the hardest for you to do is learn to enjoy ambiguity. Learn to enjoy something that isn't quite expected. Because I'll tell you, having done this a couple of times now, that's where the real interesting stuff occurs. What really happens is when you do something that's not expected, when something doesn't quite work the way you want, and having to overcome that is where you do some really interesting learnings and discoveries. And in fact, it was part of that I just want to make a few comments on today, and then I'll leave you alone. We were having a conversation at the beginning of this, a couple of years ago when it was just Illinois, pardon me. And we were talking about the projects and how are we going to make the projects work, and what were the outcome of the projects going to be, and how could we judge them? And it was Mick Jacobson, a mover and shaker this year, which is really cool, who said, oh, now I get it. What we need to do is, our goal is to build awesome librarians, not awesome projects. And I thought that was a really cool, that phrase stuck with me for a minute. I want to come back to a little bit about what awesome librarians means. But that means that the projects you're working on are important. The projects you're working on, you've taken the time and planning, and you'll continue to work on them. But they're one project in a much larger attempt to engage communities and engage with what's going on. So take the time to worry about the project, but take the time to understand how this goes beyond just a given project. The other thing that happened is we were, once again, in the middle of one of these, and Jan Eisen said, we have this problem where our teams are out there and they're working and they're thinking and they're playing with technology, but what they're doing is they're building websites, and what they should be doing is building conversations. So one of the themes I want you to think about as you're going through this, whether you're in Colorado, Illinois, Iowa, Ohio, Utah, what have you, is think about building great conversations. We need to think about libraries. For a long time. We've thought a lot about building things, and we usually talk about building collections. And it's going to be really easy when you're in the middle of doing this to think about blogs and content management systems and videos. I saw a lot of tweets today about people are starting some video learning and video discussion and think about building the perfect video and the transitions and such. And we as human beings like to think about how we build artifacts and maintain artifacts. But as librarians, that's not really our primary goal. That these websites, these content management systems, these videos, they're just tools. Just like books, just like collections, just like our buildings. They're just tools to allow librarians to do what we do best, which is help our communities learn, right? That's what we're here to do. As librarians, and by the way, I want to be really, really specific with how broadly I define that term. Because I know sitting in these audiences, we have people who are paraprofessionals, and we have community members, and we have librarians, and some have it by title and degrees. And today, I anoint you all librarians, because if you're not librarians in title, you're librarians in spirit. And frankly, if anyone makes a difference between you doing good work, whether you have a degree or not, don't listen to them ever again. So you're all librarians today. And that means that we all have a common mission. And that mission of librarians is to improve society, and you're welcome to stop the mission statement there if you want. But how do we do it? Right? A lot of people talk about how do we improve society. We do it through facilitating knowledge creation in our communities. We do it through learning. We do it through information. We do it through lots of things, but ultimately the act of which we are engaged in is the learning act. And that puts us in a really special and somewhat rarefied position. When we seek to make our society better, when we seek to make our communities better, we do it in a way where we engage them, and we engage them in doing something that is so fundamentally human that no other people can, nothing else can really match it, which is to learn. And so I want you to think about that for a moment, that what we're here to do is make our communities better. So the websites we build, the buildings that we build, the collections we build, all of these are simply tools. The real collection of your library, the real collection of your project is not the books and licensed materials and resources and libraries and maker spaces. They're tools to help you on it. The real collection is your community. And you need to engage them in conversation. And sometimes that means you need to get the hell out of your buildings to do it. You need to spend time where they're learning. You need to spend time where they're overcoming problems. And that's the other thing that we need to think about as you're going through this, as you're talking about communities, as you're talking about your projects, as you're talking about how we can help the community get better. I want you to avoid a couple of things. The first thing I want you to avoid is talking about using the phrase user. And you'll see that lots of speakers out there will use that phrase, and they'll have a very positive aspect to it. And I don't, because to me, only computer scientists and drug dealers have users. I'm not sure that's the company we want to keep, but it could be. Users is becoming way, 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 way too closely associated with consumer or customer, which are the terms I also don't like. And the reason I don't like them is not because of the attitude of the customer's always right or we serve the customers. It's because it has the idea that someone consumes and then leaves. Someone uses us and then leaves. And what a good library is, and a good library in a school, a good library in a community, a good library in a university, in a law office, whatever, what a good library does is it builds a membership that co-owns the activity. Where you want to get is where the success of your library is the success of the community, not the success of what you've done in spite of them. And one way that we need to stop thinking about it is oftentimes when we think about users or customers or consumers, we think in terms of problems and deficits. We think in terms of what's wrong with our community. I mean, think about literacy for a moment, right? Libraries, public libraries, school libraries, youth librarians have done a brilliant job of talking about reading and the importance of literacy. But how do we promote it? Sometimes we promote it in escape to new world. Sometimes we promote it as let your mind go free. But too often we promote it as our community doesn't read enough. Our community has a literacy problem. Our schools aren't any good. And what happens is when we do that with internet access, we provide internet access. Why? Oh, we're too rural. Oh, it's too expensive. Oh, our community doesn't understand it enough. In essence, if we approach our communities by constantly seeking to solve their problems, what we constantly do is remind them that they have problems. And over time, you will not be invited back. We had this situation in Syracuse University. We had all these psychology students and social work students, and we unleashed them in downtown Syracuse. It's like, look, here's a whole wonderful place for people who have no money and no future and no thoughts. Go remind them of that. And what happened was the community came back and they said, please don't send them anymore. We're tired of hearing how we're broken. And for years, they weren't invited back. And it wasn't like poverty went away, and it wasn't like the idea that we didn't have ethnic problems and youth violence and all of this other stuff. I don't want to deny that there are problems. But what happened is we had a new chancellor come in and she said scholarship and action. And what they did was they re-engaged the community. But this time, instead of saying, hey, we're going to send you students to handle your youth violence issues, your ethnic disputes, your poverty issues, we said, what do you want to be? And think about the difference of approaching a community from, hey, we see all that's wrong with you, we can help, to what do you want to be? That's the main question that in your projects, when you're talking with your community members, that's the question that we as librarians seek to solve. Do we want to be a literate community? Do we want to be an affluent community? Do we want to be a community that cares about social justice? Do we want to be a community that's green? Do we want to be a community that's an economic startup? Do we want to be a community that values children? What do we want to be? By focusing not on websites and blogs and tools and collections and books and materials, but on the aspirations and dreams of our members, upon what they want to be, upon what they strive for, We will build not websites and materials and be a place and a building and a tax burden. We will be the facilitators and enablers of community dreams. And I think that that's the best definition of libraries I've heard in a long time. The idea of a place where there are books, or a place where I check things out, or we're the cheap place until we can afford Amazon. This is not what we want to be. Years ago, we used to talk about librarians as the best search engines. No, you're not. You suck. And until you can return 1.5 million irrelevant results in under 3 microsystems and target with advertising, you suck as a search engine. Why are we competing? Why are we competing with these folks? I don't get it. So we'll think about that for a minute. Positives, right? A lot of you have projects that were defined, and once again, not because the problems don't exist, but because we need to turn problems into opportunities. A lot of you are defined by how can we increase economic development. You can either phrase that as how can we make more financial and business resources available to our community, or you can phrase it as we got no money, help me. One will get you attention, will get you people to join in, will get you partners. The other will get people really tired of being reminded of these things. So I don't want to deny that our communities have problems, but I think all too often we've denied that our communities have dreams and aspirations, and that's as much our job as anything. Remove obstacles towards a greater goal. Don't simply concentrate on the obstacles. Now, the other phrase that Mick pointed out that I'd like to bring up for a minute was he talked about that we're trying to, that the ILEAD USA project, regardless of what state you're in and where you are, and bringing these wonderful speakers in and giving you these sessions and giving you time to just meet with each other. It's not about building awesome projects. It's about building awesome librarians. And there's been a rather interesting dialogue going on the Twitter sphere over the past 2 or 3 weeks. It's been, frankly, very discouraging. So the movers and shakers came out, and this led to this inevitable suite of blog postings and Twitter feeds about more or less who, why me, oh, these people get attention because they wear like hipster glasses and sports coats that are 3 sizes too short, and don't they know that really the cool librarians never leave the building and they sit there and answer reference questions at midnight, even though, you know, like the cats that walk by, they'll answer reference questions, and that's what's important. And it frankly brings out an ugly side of our profession. The ugly side of our profession is, for some reason, we crave to get attention as a profession, and yet somehow when any of our individuals get attention, we think that they're undeserving or that doesn't translate into attention for all. We are all going to be awesome librarians, and we all need to be awesome librarians. And the difference between being an awesome librarian or an epic librarian, as my 13-year-old would say, because apparently epic is the new awesome, which, it's about not simply doing your job, but understanding why you do your job. Because if you seek to understand why you do it, it helps you determine when you should start doing something differently. If all you do is concentrate on what you do, you might be able to do it better, but eventually what you do will not be as relevant as what you should be doing. So when you hear things like, should we put maker spaces in libraries? Should we have seed libraries? There was just a story about a library that loans out guitars. Oh, but that's not what we should do. Why? Well, because we do books. Why? Right? I mean, it's amazing to me, this idea that, well, we do books and we'll do ebooks because it's got the word books in it. It's like librarians only became existent when Gutenberg figured out movable type. I mean, we were there a couple thousand years ago, right? Eli Nyberger came and spoke, said there was probably a committee at the Library of Alexandria that, 3,000 years ago that was debating this, what to do about scrolls and the emergence of mobile technologies. They're just tools. Why do we do them? And what's amazing to me is, I've said it before and I'll say it again, to me a room full of books and materials and stacked to the rafters is a closet or a warehouse. An empty book with a librarian in it is a library. Because awesome librarians realize that what we're ultimately about is human-to-human conversation, connection, and learning. And what we do is we facilitate that. And sometimes learning requires a book, and sometimes learning requires a guitar, and sometimes learning requires a seed, and sometimes learning requires quiet, and sometimes it requires a great deal of noise. And it is our job to understand that that's our role. So I told this story before, but I'll tell it again. Some of you may have heard it. But in In 2011, during the Egyptian Revolution, which unfortunately looks like the last Egyptian revolution before the one that's coming, something very interesting happened. Everyone, all the news media and such was focused on Tahrir Square in Cairo. Well, I have to take a drink. We'll have a Mark Rubio moment. Hold on a moment. But the protest around against the Mubarak administration happened not only in Cairo, but happened all over the country. In fact, it happened in Alexandria, which is the largest shipping port in Egypt. And so there were constant protests and there was violence. And what happened on January 28th at 6 p.m., and no one quite knows how it happened, all security, all military, all police, all security for the city disappeared. At the same time that magically all the jails opened their doors and all the rapists and murderers and thieves were let loose on the streets. This resulted in a massive mob scene and a massive amount of destruction and violence. What happened was roving mobs would go from government building to government building, and they would use Molotov cocktails, and they would use anything they could hand, and they would burn them down to the ground. In protest and anger at this government, at this administration, at Mubarak himself, they destroyed every symbol they could find of the regime. And then they turned to the Library of Alexandria. Now, the Library of Alexandria was built not a decade before by Mubarak in an attempt to recapture the glory and knowledge and the esteem of the ancient Library of Alexandria. But it was a building built really to show off the power of Egypt and really the power of Mubarak. His wife sat on the board. It would be hard to argue about another building that was more closely associated with the administration, and the mob moved towards the library. And as they moved forward, something amazing happened. Protesters grabbed hand in hand, men, women, and children, and they surrounded the entire library to protect it. By the end of the protests, by the end of the night, by the end of the revolution, not one window had been broken and not one rock thrown against the wall of the Library of Alexandria. They invited the librarians to come out of the library who were terrified inside. And they asked them the next day if they could put a massive protest flag on the steps of the library. And the librarian said yes. And every day that the protesters would go out to march in the streets and protest against the administration, they would touch the flag on the steps of the library as they went out to fight for freedom and justice and equality under the law. Now, I tell this story to my students, master's students who are preparing to become librarians. And while it's an inspiring story, when you look at people about to become librarians or librarians, they look really, really, really nervous. And they suddenly go, now Dave, exactly what are you training me for? You know, here I am, I'm thinking I'm gonna go do youth librarianship, and the biggest fight I'm gonna have is Harry Potter Satanistic or not, and you're asking me to go to the streets and basically overthrow the government on a regular basis. Not quite. I tell them, these are awesome librarians. And they want to say, they use the phrase extraordinarily librarians. They're extraordinary librarians. And I say, I don't like that. That implies that they're extraordinary, that somehow these librarians went above and beyond what we would expect the profession to be. I want this to be the bar that we all attain. This is where we seek to be awesome librarians. Not that we're going to overthrow governments in the near term. Not that we're going to seek to deal with this massive violence, but on a daily basis, what we're going to do is help a community understand that the library and what the library can do is essential to the dreams and aspirations of that community. That's what these folks do. What those librarians did in 10 years to change it from the symbol of the government to a symbol of the people. What was it that these awesome librarians, these epic librarians did day in and day out to change them from being the idea of a government workers to the idea of a people's force? They did their job. Every day, they did their job. Every day, they walked in and they did to the best of their ability what librarians do. But they didn't do it to better the collection. They didn't do it inspired by the building. They didn't look at their job as the artifacts and infrastructure, the coral reef without the life. What they did for 10 years, their job was, for 10 years, was to make the community around them better, to help the community around them learn, to help the community around them aspire to more than what they were given, to seek out what is better. We can look at literacy, we can look at reading, we can look at media as a way to entertain the masses and numb them from the truth, or we can look at libraries and knowledge as a way to have them question everything. An awesome librarian understands that what we seek to do through literacy, what we seek to do through our databases, what we seek to do through law librarianship, through medical librarianship, is not to do the artifacts and materials and collections, but to do better community work, better engaged democracy, better medicine, better law. When we wire people to machines, we don't do it because, hey, let's see what their heart's doing. We do it because we want them to get better. When we give someone a book, when we give them material, when we loan out a guitar, when we simply sit and listen, we do it not because, hey, as librarians, that's what we were told to do. We do it because it's going to make their world better. The community is the collection. And you're not going to learn about what those dreams are, what those aspirations are, by looking at collection statistics. You're not going to look at circulation data. You can't simply go in and say, this was checked in, this was checked out, therefore our community is. You have no idea. You have to go out into the community. You have to leave those buildings on a regular basis, and you have to invite those community into your building on a regular basis. An ILEAD U project, which I absolutely love, is in Eureka, Illinois, which is in very rural Illinois. A woman moved in. She was a commercial chef. She went to the library and said, there's not enough places to have lunch here. Now, the librarian could have said, well, thanks for letting us know. Here's a sandwich. I don't know. Here's a book on business plans, or here's whatever. Instead, what the librarian said was, you know what? Why don't you use that corner of our property? Every Tuesday, why don't you just bring in, we've got some tables, set them up. You've got access to a commercial kitchen. Why don't you become the third lunch place? And Thursdays turned into Tuesdays and Wednesdays and Thursdays. And that turned into a catering business. And that turned into the idea of a community coming to the library to learn and have lunch and to talk to each other. They won an award from the Rural Economic Development Association of the state. The point is that that was an awesome project, but that wasn't the project they showed up with ILEAD USA for. It turns out awesome librarians showed up to do projects, and they became awesome regardless of the task before them. So why am I so jealous? I'm jealous because sitting amongst you, sitting in Colorado, sitting in Iowa, Utah, Illinois, Ohio, you have brilliant people on your left and your right. And they're not just the people who get on the big screens. And they're not just the people who show you how to make videos. And they're not just the people who do sketches. They're not just the people who we talk about as rock stars and all this other stuff. They're the people literally sitting to your left and your right and right where you are. You are going to be the awesome librarians. And if you're not already, then look for inspiration to become that. Look for a friend to mentor you. Look for a way to engage it. And the way that you're going to measure, the way you're going to see if you've made it or not, is every day when you wake up and you're excited to go in to help the community get better. Every day when you're excited to say, what more can I do? Not more with less, not more of the same, not simply can I catalog faster, but simply to say, what dreams can I enable today? Where can I make this happen? So it's not going to be in a single project, and it's not going to be in a single residency, and it's not going to be in a single experience, but this is a starting point. And you wouldn't have been chosen, and you wouldn't be sitting here today, and you wouldn't be hearing this word if we didn't think that you were quite capable of doing it. And your job after these residencies, after these intercessions, after hearing these big heads and hearing these grand thoughts and learning these techniques and technologies is to pass it on. Because what we need in this profession are not just movers and shakers, and not just emerging leaders, and not just people who get picked on this grant or that grant. What we need is an entire profession of awesome librarians, an entire profession dedicated to the betterment of our society, an entire profession that is willing to stand up and talk open access, and talk about access to the internet, and talk about digital divide issues, and talk about creativity and innovation, and say if it is about learning and knowledge, it is about our profession. And if you look at this building and you see something outdated, if you look at this building and see a warehouse of books, walk in and let me show you that this is about you, your dreams, and your aspirations. That's what this is about. And that's why I'm jealous I can't be there today. But damn well sure I'm going to make it as soon as I can. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope that you have a wonderful time.
We can all continue this conversation by tweeting to hashtag ILEAD USA. And you can ask, and David can answer questions, personal questions, questions about his inspirational speech. And ladies and gentlemen, David Lankes. Okay, we're going live to Springfield, which is words I've always wanted to say. I'm Andrew Bullen. I'm a librarian here at the Illinois State Library, and I'm having greatness thrust upon me by being your moderator for the next few minutes. Let me introduce to you David Racine to talk about the evaluation process that we're going to be using. And David Racine. Oh. Let me just say, throughout all of these speeches, talks, please feel free to ask us questions and tweet with hashtag ILEAD USA, ILEAD USA. Good, sir.
Thank you, Andrew. I'm not going to be inspiring. I'm sorry. My job is just to be very brief and first of all to thank everyone who has completed our initial survey for participants and mentors. We very much appreciate it. If you haven't done so, we would really hope that you could do that as soon as possible. Over the next, let's see, between now and early November, which is right after the end of ILEAD USA for this year, you'll be participating in 3 more surveys. There'll be another one in late April, early May, another one in late August, early September, and then a final one in early November. The next 2 will be to get your input on how the experience is going so far, and then the one at the very end will be to get your views of how the whole experience went. What we do in this evaluation is, you hear the word evaluation and you kind of automatically get your hackles up just a little bit. What we do in this evaluation is not what they sometimes call a summative evaluation. We are trying to render definitive judgment on whether the program works or not. What we do is what's called a formative evaluation, where we're generating information along the way that we then feed back to the leaders of the program in each state. So after each survey, we will be giving each state information that they can use to sort of understand how things are going. And then in the end, we'll do a final report that will go on record to help provide kind of the story of ILEAD USA from the standpoint of the evaluators. All along the way, everything that you tell us in these surveys will be confidential. Nobody else will know. That's always that's code for be as honest as you possibly can be. Recognizing that some issues and questions are always going to be a little bit ambiguous and might require a little more thought. This will never be, the surveys I think you'll find are generally pretty brief, can be done in about 15 minutes. But it's been a part of the ILEAD process from the beginning, and I think this is a new exciting opportunity to see how the program works in other states. So I thank you and have a good couple of days here in Springfield. Thank you.
We have, how many do you think at this point? 54 tweets already. So I'm about to kill it. So Gwen Harrison, Illinois State Library, my dear friend and colleague, we are kind of substituting for Ann Craig, who is really the should be the star of this show, is the head of the Illinois State Library, is the capo di tutti capi of the Illinois State Library, and unfortunately is not able to speak very well. She has a cold. So we are going to be awesome speakers right now.
We're going to try to be awesome speakers. But I want you to know, Ann, I'm really digging those purple boots. And Joe, I hope you don't count that as an inside joke, but they're just awesome to me. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and get started with our presentation. On behalf of Ann Craig.
Annie, stand up.
There you go.
Hey.
There you go. You want to go ahead to the next slide? Okay, all right. First of all, we want to say thank you to IMLS for this wonderful grant that they've given us. We were awarded a $470,000 Laura Bush 21st Century Grant program. We also want to say thank you to the Secretary of State and, well, to the place that I work at, the Illinois State Library. We are also happy that we are partnering with Colorado, Iowa, Illinois, Utah, Ohio. We've got David Lankes at Syracuse University. We've got the University of Illinois Springfield and their awesome conference services staff, as well as OCLC. In essence, each and every one of you guys have been awarded a $4,000 grant plus. And not only is that award to you, it's also to your library and to your community. So we really count this thing as awesome. I'm really inspired after David Lankes' speech, guys. I'm ready to go out and get a book cart and sit on a corner and and do my thing. I really am. In particular, what is really nice about this program, we have state partners, as I said earlier. We have Gene Hayner, we've got Christine Krieger in Colorado. We've got Mary Wagner and Alicia Pike in Iowa. We've got Beverly Kane and Ashley Tomany in Ohio, and Donna Jones-Morris and Matt McLean in Utah. Thank you, guys. I know you guys are having an awesome time. I wish I could see you. I wish we had holograms or something so that I could really see what's happening in your states. You must be doing a good job because I haven't had any messages, no phone calls, nothing. So I know that you guys are having a great time. At this point, I'm going to step away from the mic and I'm going to let Andy do his thing.
All right. One of the exercises that we're going to be doing in ILEAD USA is trying to read my notes. So our purposes, and this is a photograph of one of our favorite instructors, Karen McBride, and a cohort, I think from last year, from 2011. I can't remember. Anyway, our purposes in this, the purpose of why we're all together. We're getting our participants to have experience with technology and technology projects. We're learning to work with technology teams. We're helping the participants and the institutions that send the participants to develop these skills, to learn to work with technology and technological factors, how to understand and respond to user needs through the application of participatory technology tools. And the participatory is the key word in that sentence. We are going to be working together in your teams, in your cohorts, with other librarians, with the librarians at your institutions, and with your community. As David Lankes said, librarians build community. This is one of the strongest ways that we can do it. Why ILEAD USA? This is one of the most effective methods that we've found. This total immersion process, this total immersion experience that is team-based, is project-based, yet there's a larger focus, which is learning, as I say, to work with technology, to work with change, to build change into your daily routine, and to keep us relevant in the world and keep the vital mission that we perform relevant in the world of changing technologies and changing expectations. Gwen.
Okay, so we really believe that we've got a winning formula based upon a past program that we developed called Synergy, and I'm really certain that there are probably a lot of synergists in this room as well. This formula is based upon looking around and saying, hey, I've got a community need. you hook up with some of your favorite librarians, and then you guys get together and you create a product that will address that need. And in the corner there, we have David Lankes and our own Tina Hubert in the photo there. And we know that it's a winning formula. We know that this immersion experience works, that it makes a difference. We know that bringing people together, applying them with all kinds of things, mentors, instructors, technology, food, we know that it makes a difference. And not only do you guys reap benefits, the state library reaps benefits, your library and your community reaps benefits. And we also want you guys to remember to take this back. Share what you've learned with your community, with your colleagues, with whomever you can talk to about this experience. Take it back and share it and make it real and make it live. Remember to connect with people that are here. Build your network. Make it work for you. Get all that you can get out of this. Okay, I'm out. I'm done.
Oh, no, we're doing this together. All right.
Alrighty, go ahead.
Well, no, it's a group photo, right? But it's really the people that are participating in your individual learning experience.
Okay, so
Anything else you want to say?
not really.
Okay.
Okay.
Excellent.
So it's all about connecting.
Yep.
Okay, connect to the person sitting next to you, connect to your mentor,
Connect.
to the instructors, connect back home at your libraries,
Right.
and connect to your communities. Next.
And the power of technology, these people are hypnotized by what they're seeing on the screen. That's power. That right there is power. But really, making the power of technology work for you. The courage to try new things, and within the past couple of hours, we've already done that. I think it's this immersion process, this immersion technique that we're using with this allows us to be silly and fail and do all kinds of wonderful things away from a critical environment, away from an environment, where you can't afford to make mistakes. And it is a wonderful thing to try new things and to succeed and fail as it goes. So you will have 3 deliverables, quote unquote, in your process, and they are tailored to the 3 sessions that you have throughout the year. The first, of course, is going to be the video. The video is kind of an introduction as to how you work together as a team. You're going to deliver something that other people can see, and it's going to be a fun, let's get the team working together. I've got a barn, I've got some costumes, let's make a play kind of thing. Your second deliverable is a poster session, which will be in the second session in June. That is communicating your ideas to other people. So you guys are going to be experts in your project, but you need to be able to say to other people, to others, what those projects are going to be about. Sell those projects. And then finally is the big tuna. It's the project. You're going to say, here it is. For better or worse, this worked, this didn't, but by goodness, look at what we did. So,
Very good.
thank you. And that first sentence is the most important thing on that slide. Success is guaranteed. There's no failing here, except if you don't gain weight from all the food that you eat. But anyway, success is guaranteed. There's no such thing as failure. We're not focused on the final project. That's not the point. The point is to take you through that process, to learn together in the process of building a project.
Will you experience personal growth? Yes. Will you experience team growth? Yes.
There is a long trail of support behind you. There is, first off, your fellow cohort members, the people in your teams, the mentors of your teams, the instructors, the community reps that are with your teams. A story. I hope to see some eye rolling at this point. Second World War. A man named Colonel Evans Carlson helped build the United States Marine Corps Raider battalions. He was in charge, actually, of the 2nd United States Marine Corps Raider Battalion. And he brought back from his experience in China the concept of Gung-ho. He introduced that word to America. He introduced that word to the United States Marine Corps in particular, which it became known as. And he, when asked over time, what is Gung-ho, what does that mean? He would translate it variously, because he was kind of making all this up as he went along. But he would translate it in one of two ways. He would either say, strive for harmony. That's what Gung-ho means in Chinese, which of course it doesn't. Or pull together. So I want all of our, across all this great nation of ours, I want all of our team mottos to be gung-ho, which can either mean strive for harmony, not the harmony of all we all need to work together, but the harmonious, making all the teams work together, making these projects work as well as we can through the use of instructors and mentors and the community reps and things like that. So we're going to all strive for harmony. We're also going to pull together as a group. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you. And you got a lot of support, is the point. So next slide. I know, I've left you speechless, I realize.
I've said this earlier. Tell everybody about your
Yeah.
experience here.
Please.
Share it, tweet it, Facebook it, whatever you need to do, but just tell and share your experience. We've got some lovely ladies on the screen here, including, Amber.
Yeah,
Whoa.
Amber's a, wow,
Yeah.
okay.
And Sarah.
Long hair,
Yeah.
yeah.
Awesome. Next slide, please. And this is compliments of Ann.
Yep.
Channel Mrs. Frizzle from the PBS station. She says, take chances, make mistakes, and get messy.
She had to explain who Mrs. Frizzle was to me, I'm sorry to say. I know.
Okay, briefly, remember that each team will be awarded an equipment grant to help build your product. By the end of your second session, we need you guys to submit your applications for your equipment for the equipment grant. Remember to tell the story on Web Junction, Illinois. That is the diary of our project.
Yep.
Record all of your activities, all of your meetings, all of your sessions, all of your notes on Web Junction, Illinois, and upload your videos to YouTube.
And link whatever you've done, whatever projects to Web Junction, Illinois. I mean, let the world know about it. I mean, it's a diary of your success. It's a diary of your efforts. So.
And also, don't forget
Yes.
the Intercessions. We've asked that you guys attend at least 5 intercessions between now and October. And also remember to keep your community rep involved in your project. In your binders, there is a community rep form, a little checkoff list, just something to try to keep you guys honest. And remember to take it back home and discuss your outputs and activities with your community rep. So just keep your community rep involved with your project and your experience. Okay. And that ends our presentation.
Yep.
And are there any questions?
Or thoughts or comments?
And you may ask live if you'd like to tweet, and Debbie will answer the tweets.
Debbie will read out the tweets and we
Yeah.
will answer.
Are there any questions? You guys ready for break and food?
The words.
Oh, Ann? Oh, darn. Okay.
I think we stunned them into silence.
Yeah. Go ahead, Tina.
Miss Tina.
Speak a little bit more to the intercessions. They're video recordings of what we didn't get to see here, video recordings from the other days.
Exactly. So our intercessions will be a combination of our sessions that we're going to record. We're going to record all of the sessions that are here and put them on WJIL. And we're also going to be nimble, and we're also going to listen to your requests. There might be things that we have not talked about during our in-person sessions,
Right.
but when you come to us and you request that we share on certain topics, we will make sure that we make it happen. So that will be part of the intercession activity. So if there's something that you guys really, really need, let us know, and we will address it, okay, by way of the intercession offerings.
Does it include recordings from the other states?
It does. It does.
The question was, and does that include recording?
I'm sorry.
Oh, no. I'm sorry. The question was, does that include recordings from the other state?
And it does. And so you guys will be able to check out what they've been looking at and what they've been taking part in, as well as our states looking into what we've been taking part in as well.
The intercession is also useful in the to ask questions of the instructors, to get more detailed, say, very technical information from the instructors, almost on a one-on-one or project-based basis. I've frequently done that, as an instructor in the intercessions. Hey, can you help us do this? And go into much more detail than you can at a class. So, ma'am.
I would suggest, the question was, do the posters need to be done when you guys come in June? I would suggest that they're as near to done as possible. You will have some time to prepare them, but not a lot of time. So you guys, put on your thinking caps, get your props together, get your gadgets and gadgets together, but come prepared to rock and roll, okay?
You should know that the next session is going to be very technically oriented, very hands-on techie stuff. So it may not be a huge amount of time. I don't know, we haven't planned it yet, but there may not be the largest amount of time to work on the poster session. So.
Oh, really? Oh. So we received a tweet that some of our team, state partner teams, are making logos representing their team. So perhaps you guys are interested in making a logo to represent STEM linkers or FOF or the other.
The gauntlet is thrown. I'm just saying.
Yes.
Can you speak, since you're saying that the posters need to be as complete as possible, can you speak to what those are going to be? What are
The posters have been. The question was, can you speak? What do the posters look like? They can. The purpose of the posters is to communicate your team's project to other people. It's a sales job. How can I take my project and explain what I'm doing to other people? The posters can be anything. They can be posters. They can be displays. People, do we have it? Yeah, people dressed up as pirates. So, name your poison. Poster is a very generic thing. It's a sales job. How about that? A sales presentation might be a better way of doing it. How you want to do that is going to be up to your team.
And typically the way that we set it up, it's kind of like a round robin, and the other teams will move through and observe your project and ask you questions, and sometimes you guys get real fancy and you give out some candy, or prizes. You don't have to do this, but you guys can.
I have to do that.
Okay. You can make this whatever you want it to be, okay? A little pressure, just a little bit, but fun. Make it fun.
Yeah.
Just make it fun. I have found that you guys rise to the occasion, and
Yes.
I also have found that librarians tend to be very competitive, and so you guys want to shine when you're out there. You want to shine. So
Yeah, where's our roller derby person? That would make a heck of a presentation. So there you go.
Are there more questions? Are there any more questions or tweets? We are still taking tweets. We're still in the tweeting business. Okay, we're going to close this out. Thank you, everybody.
It's been an honor and a pleasure.
It has been.
I love
All
you.
right. Oh, you did well, Andy. Thank you. Oh, no,
Great,
no
yes.
way. Heck no. No way. What's... I don't know, is it break time? I don't have my binder.